Hi. So, a couple of days ago, I woke up and I was sitting in my bed, lying in my bed, still before I even opened my eyes. And I was remembering when I used to make music, noise. um, Most specifically, the way I made it. And it's funny because at the time when I used to make noise, I was writing. I was starting to figure out how I wanted to write. And I was starting to use writing to explore ideas and, conceptions of the world. And I kind of started to mix in the other things I was doing as concepts to fuel my conceptual development and conceptual exploration. What I mean by noise is like sound, experimental music, I guess, for people who don't know what that means. Doesn't necessarily sound like music. Experimenting with sound. And what I used to do was have like a mixing desk with different effects plugged into it in a loop, so it made feedback by itself without like sound input. But depending on what was going into it, you can manipulate the sound and the way the sound reverberates, or the way, change the texture of the sound or whatever. And so it was kind of like a natural process in a way. And where I'm getting to with this will become clear over time. But for example, what it made me think about when I was remembering making noise, was that it's a lot like thinking. Like you just have signals going around in your brain and in your body, and you're interpreting them, but the interpretation itself puts signals back into the circuit, so to speak. And so it's not like you just have this screen like a computer and it has icons on it that you can inspect in a neutral way. It's constantly moving and changing shape and evolving. And that's the tricky thing about having a mind and a mental and emotional life and a physical life too, because the way that physical organisms develop is similar. You have kind of just chemicals and materials, elements in the environment, and at some point they achieve some form of stability so that they can maintain their shape even against the stimulation or disruption from the environment. And so we have to continue to do certain things in order to maintain that shape. And for people, for the humans, there's various different levels of it. And you can do any of them to a better or worse kind of level, Like eating some food will keep you going, but eating good food, eating a balanced diet will keep you going in a better way. And for longer, keep a better balance for longer. And the shape that you maintain is dependent on the way that you manage all the different factors bearing on that shape. So when I was doing it in music, like you have an effect that repeats the sound, or that creates an echo, or that makes it vibrate or fluctuate in a different way. But it's constantly going into a circuit. So it's constantly coming back into itself. So if you do something once, it changes the whole shape of the sound that is the sound shape that is being created. And you're constantly experimenting with all these different factors that bear on that final shape that is what you hear. So it's different from like making music with a guitar where you just do a chord and that's it. It's like a directional, like a one direction line going from your thought or your intent to the sound. Although it's similar in some ways, but whatever, just for now. This is more like everything that you do. The sound product is not a static thing. It's everything that you do to try and balance it changes what it is that you're actually balancing. So you always have to kind of be in the flow of it. And I really think that identity and health and emotional life, emotional and mental health are all like that too. Because if you change the way that you manage a certain part of your life, it changes the dynamic between that thing and each other part of your life. And so all of those things change, and then they change the part that you had tried to change in the first place. So say you cut out sugar, and that's going to change your emotional state and your energy levels and your digestion and the way that you think and the things that you think about ultimately, if it's changing the way that you feel, because then it's going to change the way that you view and interpret the world. Then it's going to change your perspective on sugar itself. Then it might even change the effect that sugar has on your body. So it's not as simple as you just take out sugar and then it's better, because what sugar means in that context itself changes. So it's not enough to just have a framework where this is good and that's bad, and you just do the right thing. Don't eat sugar, or don't eat fat, or don't eat meat, or whatever your system is. Because you have to constantly be in the play and constantly be monitoring the way that balance shifts. And so when I was laying in my bed thinking about this, I was thinking about how it's so much like thinking, because you just have these signals going on in your brain. And what you're really trying to do is find a balance that you feel right about, that maintains an image or a set of images or a state that feels like you, or feels, true or correct. So it's not as simple as just thinking about something different, or, don't think about negative things, or think about things in a different way. Because like the sugar, once you do that, then the whole dynamic shifts, and then something else is going to crop up which maybe feels like not you, or not comfortable, or not correct. And I think every organism and every person is doing that all the time. But when we try and focus on the things outside of us, or including ideas, so whether it's something that you are experiencing, like your career, or just a concept about the world, those are both things outside of your perception that you use to communicate to yourself and try and find a balance. So use your perceptions of things to try and find that best balance for you to feel like who you are. But because most of people do that on the outside, there's always some part of it that's not working, or not going to quite fit, if you don't take into account the perception itself, the part of the circuit or that feedback that is you perceiving it and interpreting it. Which is why most people have the same problems over and over again, because you're always locating the problem outside of you, which is a place where you can't actually manage it. Or even if you do manage to solve a problem in a certain area, because it changes, when you solve a problem, it changes the balance of your life. Then it's common for a similar problem to come up in a different area, a similar type of imbalance to come up in a different area of your life, because you've only done the work on this specific part of it, like just taking out the sugar. So what's important about this story, about this concept, is that it's important to know that that's what you're trying to do with all these different things in your life. I think a lot of people don't feel like they have a sense of purpose, but they have all these things in their lives that do or don't fit together, problems cropping up in different parts of life all the time, that never really feel like a cohesive whole, or that it's hard to manage because they're all separate. And once you put your focus on one thing, then and neglect all the other things, or maybe you've got enough focus for half of the things in your life, then you neglect the other half, and then they play up, and then you've got to focus on them, but then you have to neglect other things. Never really getting to the root of the problem, which is that image that you're trying to create in the center. So when you're thinking about something, say you're trying to solve a problem. Say you're trying to figure out a way to get the couch through the doorway, but it's too big or something. And in your mind, you've got these different factors, different elements of the situation: the size of the door, the size and the shape of the couch, the passage through the door, the weight of the couch, the people managing either end of the couch. And as you shift around different parts of that, what's really happening is that there's signals going off in your brain. And until you find what you at least believe to be the solution to that problem, it never really forms a balanced image. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You go through different possibilities for a solution until it forms like a balanced image that doesn't seem to have any problems with it. And then you can carry on with actually getting the couch through the door. Or then ideally you've actually got it through and put it in the living room. Which, by the way, is what they call strategies in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which is quite a useful way of looking at how you deal with the world inside your own mind. But I'll leave that to you to look up for now, because that's not what this video is about. But it's a signal, it's just a vibration or energy or electricity or however you want to imagine it, happening inside your brain, and it's shooting around all these different areas. And so long as it's like bouncing off all these different parts of your brain, refracting through different systems in your brain, it's never going to quite feel balanced. Or there might be moments where you feel balanced, but then it drops off again. And I think what most people are trying to do, even when they don't realize it, is find a state where they can be as balanced as possible for as long as possible. But because we learn that what we should be doing, or what is the highest goal or the best way to be in life, is to, say, make enough money and have a good career, have a good relationship, have good friends, enjoy things, enjoy your hobbies and interests, enjoy TV and movies. We never really get the sense that that is the actual thing that will make us feel happy or good about what we're doing in our lives. Like, we all think, oh, we've got to do this and that, eat vegetables and exercise to be healthy. But beyond that, I don't know if many people actually think about what healthy actually means on a physical level. Like, what has to actually be happening, or even just the type of thing that should be happening in order for it to be called healthy or categorized as healthy. Most people just think if you're not sick, you're healthy, which is weird, because I've seen some people who are like really clearly not healthy say that they're healthy, because it's like, but I haven't had a cold in like 2 years. But it's like, cool, but that is like a really small fraction of your overall health, which includes, you know, every facet of your life. You know, the way you interact with people, the way you feel about your interactions with people and with situations in your life, the way you're able to maintain your energy or not in different things that you're trying to do, like in your work or in your relationships. Obviously, what your appetite's like, the way you digest food, you know, all those things are elements of health, and none of them is health itself. And I think ultimately to be completely healthy is something that almost no one achieves in life. You can be like relatively healthy. And I think like being like ultimately healthy, this is probably taking it too far, but is probably going beyond even the concept of health itself. Like I think it's probably closer to a kind of state of internal peace, or like, you know, I don't know if I want to go so far as to say enlightenment, but like, you know, that kind of level of balance in all parts of your life, I think is probably like the ultimate state of health. Because if there's problems in some part of your life, then it means that you're projecting something onto that part of your life, which means that it's probably not balanced, it's not in the center. Now, I also want to bring this concept into the realm of identity, because I think the sense of identity and of who you are and what you're doing in the world is an important part of health and happiness and, you know, feeling right about your life, which I think everyone wants to feel. And I think that's a similar thing too, where what you're really trying to do is find the balance between all these different factors in your life so that the image that they produce together, so like imagine that there's a bunch of different parts of your life. I can't name every part of your life, but say there's like work, relationships, health, diet, interests and hobbies and passions. Okay, we'll just pretend there's only 5. And there's like energy running through all of them, because you go and interact with them, put energy into them, take energy out of them. Other people or other things involved in each of these parts of your life are and have energy that they contribute and make up the energy structure, like a system of that part of your life. So there's energy running through all these circuits like a computer, and you're the key point. You're the cursor or the screen or whatever, viewing all those parts of your life and managing, ideally, you're managing the way the energy is balanced in all those parts of your life. And they all mean certain things to you. They're all things that, you know, you are the point in each of these things, and you are engaging with these different parts of your life because you're trying to get, they mean something to you in that image of your life, and you're trying to get that meaning out of it. So you put energy into these things to get that energy feedback or the image, to get the meaning back out of it through testing what's it going to be like if I put energy into this structure. And then through all those circuits, say there's like energy whirring around between all these things, and it's like it creates a hologram that is your identity or your life, the kind of image of your life. I wouldn't say it's like a visual image necessarily, but it's like the sense that that engagement is who you are, or an accurate reflection of who you are. And I think that's what everyone is really trying to achieve, so that inside yourself and in all your interactions with the different parts of your life or your world, everything that you interact with in the world, when you get the reflection back from what you're expressing and communicating, it feels like you, and it reaffirms that image. of who you are. And ideally going deeper and deeper into your perception of who you are and into the layers of your being and your consciousness, and ascertaining that essence of who you are that makes up all of those reflections. That's why it's important to have a range of things in your life, because you get different reflections of who you are back from each of them. And then you get a sense of the essence across that variation of exchanges and experiences. And I think that's also a lot of the time why people maintain bad habits, because it confirms to them that their sense of their identity is correct, which is dangerous, because you can get that if what you're really looking for is a sense of identity and you get it from drugs or work or TV or junk food or whatever, then you'll stay at that level and repeating that same interaction, because every time you do it you're like, ha, I was right, and then you do it again. This is not the time to talk about breaking out of negative cycles, but it is important to be aware that the image is never who you are. There's always a deeper sense of the essence of who you are. So it's important not to stay stuck at any particular instance or of interaction with the world and believe that that's who you are. It's important to do that experience and get the sense that you get through that experience, but then kind of superimpose it onto other experiences to find which part of it is deeply who you are and which part of it is excess. Also, because getting a sense of that essence of who you are also drives what you contribute to the world and develop over your lifetime. So it's like you reduce all these experiences down to the essence, but then that essence is like a seed that you plant into things so that it can grow into something like a new possibility or a new technology that can be brought into the world, to develop and improve the world, I think is the ultimate outcome of that process. It's not just finding the essence, but it's finding ways to bring it into the world. So through the feedback circuit that you have with every part of your life, it's always going in both directions. You're putting energy into it, you get a sense of what it is that you're putting into it by whatever it is that you get back from it. And then you also get a sense of how these kind of structures in the world work, because they're the modules that you're using, like the effect units, if it was music, to produce that overall image. And so you want to know how they work so that you can use them as tools or mechanisms in your life to then produce value in the world and produce new value and bring your new unique essence as a technology into the broader space of the world for other people to also benefit from. Okay. That's pretty much what I came here to say today. I don't tend to give too many actual examples, so if you want specific examples, maybe give me a prompt about that or an example from your life to respond to. Good idea. And I'll bring that up in the next video or in the comments or however people do it. But yeah, keep an eye on your life. Observe what's happening in your life and just observe how those mechanisms are functioning so that then you can be the one to use them to create your life and create or recreate the world, rather than just being used by it. And like, share, and subscribe. Okay, talk to you soon.